In today's crazy world, we're constantly using things we don't need, doing things we don't like, and never really moving forward or getting the results we're hoping for in either ourselves or our animals. Are you ready for a change? Join me, Wendie Patrick, your host on Quantumly Yours, Finnessiam Health's podcast, and become empowered to take control of you and your animals' health and well-being. We're all quantumly connected, so whether you're round the corner or around the world, it doesn't matter, because we can help each other and all work together on our journeys. So come, join me, and together we'll myth bust, share advice, knowledge, truths, and suggestions to help you awaken, grow, and continue your journey to a healthier, happier life. Hello and welcome to another episode of Quantumly Yours podcast with me, your host, Wendie Patrick, owner of Finnessiam Health and Dogs of Pride. What a mouthful. You'll find us all over the place as you have been. And I thank you so much for those who have been watching and listening to us on all the various platforms from iTunes to BitChute and everything in between. We keep popping up on all sorts of places as my wonderful editor finds us more platforms to appear on. If you can't find us, just go right to our website at finnessiamhealth.com, and you can always find the links on there and through Dogs of Pride on our media page, where you can also watch where we have been as a guest on other podcasts. And in fact, that brings me to one today that I have a lovely guest coming who had me as a guest on her show a few months back. And I'll be very happy to introduce her to you in a second. I just want to do the background usual housekeeping and ask you to like, subscribe, share. Please tell your friends, please tell your family, and please, if you or anyone you know would make a great guest on here, have a wonderful journey story to share, anything about your own personal health journey or your pets, something that's worked for you, a different modality, anything at all, I would love to hear from you and love to have you on the show. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Janice Amirault, who is coming back to see me today, although I was her guest the last time we chatted. But Janice has a really, really good story. And also, she has also got a new course out that she's going to talk about today, which really piqued my interest because it's to do about people who are addicted to sugar. And if you're like me, you like that old chocolate on the side, and who doesn't as a Taurus? But I'm just going to let you know a little bit more about Janice. She is a natural holistic nutritional consultant and a holistic cancer coach. And I'm going to be asking her more about that in a second too. So her interest in wellness and health food preparation stems from her own personal wellness journey, and she became living proof that lifestyle choices can determine the outcome of our health and future. Amen. Janice believes in getting to the root of the health problem, and her work is based on what science has proven, that over 90% of illness and disease can be eliminated through environmental and lifestyle choices alone. So we just love that because that's right up our alley too, and what we work with. Now, diet, and particularly overconsumption of sugar, is at the root of many of her clients' complaints, which is why she's on a mission to eradicate sugar addiction and educate women on a new approach to quit sugar. Over the last decade, she's helped hundreds of women lose weight, look amazing, and live well by ditching sugar. Awesome. She's transformed both her own life by quitting sugar, and now she brings her science-backed sugar-free approach to women worldwide so they can lose weight, look amazing, and live well by quitting sugar. So this is going to be awesome. So without further ado, I will put us into gallery mode and go, hi, Janice. Welcome.
Oh, hello. So good to see you again.
You too. Very, 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 very big welcome to the show. And tell us what you've been up to. I'm just going to get right in here. We did a little bit of a bio. So there's even more that you've been up to since we last spoke.
Yes.
So give our peeps, our viewers and listeners a little bit of a background on you and go from there.
Sure, sure. Well, what I've been up to lately seems like it's sugar, sugar, sugar. And I have to tell you, I have a new client in my 12-week program. And she was talking to her husband and her son, I think, about Janice. And they were saying, Janice who? Because they didn't know a Janice. And so she told me now they've called me Sugar Janice in her household. So, so that's great. If I can be known as Sugar Janice, that's awesome.
Yep, I can think of an awful lot of worse names than that. So yeah.
That's right. So that's basically what I've been up to. I've been working with clients and helping them break their sugar addiction. The reason that I have targeted sugar addiction is because of my own personal journey. And I don't know if you want me to talk a little bit about that.
Sure, please.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So back in, almost 20 years ago, I guess now, I started to become really tired, not just, exhausted from regular day, but extremely exhausted. And I ended up sitting around all summer, couldn't do anything, couldn't go back to work. I was an instructor and on my feet all day. And I didn't have the energy to climb the stairs or blow dry my own hair.
Oh, wow.
It was unreal. So I went to find answers and I got no answers. Basically, I was told literally from a specialist that I was lazy and just needed to exercise. So so that I could talk about in length, but what happened to me after I wallowed in self-pity for a few days, I thought, I am not living with this diagnosis, which really was not a diagnosis. They said I had chronic fatigue. And while I was chronically fatigued, I wanted to know why. Mm-hmm. So I went the alternative route. I sought out a holistic practitioner, and in no time, they had discovered what was wrong with me. And I had to change my diet. And of course, I had to quit sugar. I was addicted to sugar, and it was one of the reasons I was in the situation that I was in.
Oh, wow.
So having started baking when I was 10 years old and eating enough raw cake batter that the cake was visibly smaller when it was finished, I definitely had a big problem. I was overweight. I was the typical binge eater, ate everything in sight, yo-yo dieter, and all that had to come to a stop because I wanted my life back.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. So, wow. I mean, and look at you now, you look absolutely fabulous.
Thank you.
Well, if that's not an inspiration for any listeners who are having the same battle or the same issue, well, I don't know what else is. So now you said as well, I just want to hit on that a little bit because I'm very curious, if you don't mind talking about it, the cancer coach side as well. Was cancer a symptom, if you like, or a result of your sugar, or was there any connection to that at all, or just a different part of your journey?
It probably was, I would say 100% was related to the results, my health problems. But both my parents died of cancer very, very young while I was on my first health journey, trying to get my life back, get my energy back, which took a few years. Both my parents died of cancer. And at that time, I was learning more. I was educating myself. There was no Google back then. And what I was learning was that food had a direct impact on our health. And I saw that with my parents. They were both smokers, but their diets weren't great. And so after I became a holistic nutritionist, then I became a holistic cancer coach because I wanted to help people. But before I became a holistic cancer coach, I went through my own cancer journey, and I took it upon myself to basically, I pooled all the resources that I had learned in my training, and took matters in my own hands and dealt with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well done, you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And of course, I changed things even more when I was faced with that diagnosis. I changed my diet even more. I got more serious, if you will. And you know, Wendie, a lot of people say, I've heard the term, your diet is extreme, and you know, it is when you think about today's SAD, which means, you know, standard American diet. My diet is extreme compared to that, but what's actually extreme is that diet, because that diet is by and large probably over 80% not real food, and that's extreme. And it's no wonder we're so sick as a society, because we're eating food that it's called food, it's made in a plant, it is got chemicals in it, and the body doesn't know how to cope with it. Exactly. So what happens? It results in sickness and disease.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. Yep. You're preaching to the choir there for sure. And yeah, definitely that's it. I mean, you know, if you think eating the stuff in the cardboard box is healthy, try eating the cardboard box, because there's as much nutrition in that, and a lot of times. And it is very sad. Ironic, isn't it, that, you know, it's called SAD, the standard American diet?
Yes.
Oh, there's no coincidences. So yeah, you kind of wonder. Anyway, we go into that in different shows. We've touched on that, and we deal with that ourselves as well with our clients too. So what would you consider, or what do you think people are considering when they look at your diet as being extreme? Like what I'd like to know, I guess, Janice, is what was your biggest change that you made in your own diet?
So I guess I would have to say that, well, I was always kind of wanting, I gravitated towards being vegan. And even at 10 years old, I cried because I didn't want to eat the bacon or the steak or whatever my parents were feeding me. I just couldn't digest it. I hated to chew it. And I didn't know what vegan or vegetarian was back then. I was 10 years old. So I gravitated towards that. But as I grew up, I think the biggest thing was that I pulled sugar out of my diet. So when you pull sugar out of your diet in these days, that means you don't eat sweets anymore. That means that you don't eat refined carbohydrates anymore. That means that you completely change what the typical maybe restaurant meal is, the typical, you know, going to a potluck or any of those types of affairs or events or social gatherings. So I've been to many places where I'm thinking, I can't eat here. Because I am vegan. Even before I wasn't vegan, though, there was not a lot of choice if there was a casserole that had dairy in it, or if there was, maybe some desserts that maybe were healthier, but they were still full of sugar. So I let go of the sugar, and with that, a lot, by and large, the gluten, because the two generally go hand in hand. So I guess that would be probably the most extreme that people would see is how can, and I hear this all the time, how can you live without sugar? And the body doesn't need added sugar. The body does need glucose, but the good carbs that we eat give it that. So the vegetables, the whole grains, the nuts, the seeds, the legumes, the beans, that's what gives us our energy. Yep. And we don't need a sweet We don't need to give our kids, cake when they're 1 year old with blue icing on it. Kids don't need that. And you know what? Those kids end up growing up to be addicted to sugar, and eventually, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So it
Raising
starts
my
at a
hand.
very young age.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's always the treat. If you're good, you can get a candy bar. Or if you're good, we'll
Right.
go to the sweetie shop. Or if you're really good, oh, it's a Sunday, we'll go down the shore for an ice cream. I
Yeah.
mean, it's sugar, 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 sugar.
Yeah.
You're raised in sugar.
Yeah. And what happens is when you grow up and you can make your own choices, you treat yourself the same way. We take on the habits of our tribe, and if that's how they celebrate a happy event, or that's how they manage stress,
Yep.
get home and eat, a half a box of cookies because you've had a bad day, or half a tub of ice cream. If we see that in our own household, we take on those habits, and that's why we end up being addicted as adults, because we use sugar as a comfort.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the saddest thing is, as well, as we're talking about sugar as an addiction here. And a lot of people will be going, what are you doing? You're crazy. You're just, you know, out to lunch by saying that. Everybody's eating sugar. Yeah, but it's because we haven't realized how it's been introduced to our lives since the day one
Mhm.
that, and even, I mean, okay, let's go into as a child, how were you ever given a polio vaccine? It was on a sugar cube.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
sure, it's like which part was more poisonous? Now we're going to ask, really. But yeah, it really is an addiction. And if you go back into the history of sugar and how the sugar plantations and everything, and just look at the whole history of it, it's incredible. And there's a lot more, even TED Talks and things like that about that. And I remember Jamie Oliver coming onto the stage with a wheelbarrow full of sugar, tipping it out on stage and going, "This is what your kid's eating in a day or a week or something."
Yeah.
Absolutely astronomical amount. But yes, I mean, it was because we think it's completely and utterly fine and acceptable to do, but it's still an addiction. And
Mhm.
it's very, very difficult to break that cycle and break that habit. Because I know for sure, for one, like big piece of chocolate cake, that's the way to my heart. Uh, but yeah, carbs and chocolate cake was basically my history.
Mhm.
But yeah, by changing things like that, you actually start to develop a taste for better food.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you start to actually like, oh, I'm having asparagus now as my treat,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
right? And it,
Mhm.
it sounds a little bit strange, but it's like, oh, roast those peppers with some asparagus, a little bit of potato, olive oil, and garlic. That's a treat,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Because it's not
Taste
just
bud-
something pulled out of a box and thrown in a microwave.
That's right. Which is depleted of nutrients before you even put it in. And microwaving,
Kills the rest of it.
worse. Yeah. Yeah. But
Yeah.
you talking about how your taste buds change. I have a new client, and I just had her first follow up, her second appointment yesterday, and she was telling me about how had she likes pop, and so she had one pop left over. She was going to give it up, and she thought, well, I've got this one left. It's just a small can. I'm going to have it. And after having no sugar for, I think it was 3 or 4 days, it wasn't long, she took a sip and she thought, oh my God, this is so sweet. And bravo to her, she poured it down the drain.
Oh, very good.
You know what? This tastes horrible. It's just, I can't believe I used to drink this. But because we don't let ourselves, we have a craving, we give in. That's how we are. It's such a self gratification, instant gratification type of society. No
That's
different
right.
with our phones and everything. But she'd let herself go through, which is what I had tried to make her understand. Once you go through a few days, you will start to taste differently, and that happens in no time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. I have a few friends who have quit sugar completely, and one in particular noticed that, the bone pain or joint pain as well completely disappeared because that inflammation feeder, which
Yeah.
is really what sugar is, was removed from the equation. So therefore their system was dealing a lot with getting rid of that inflammation naturally on its own without having to do an anti-inflammatory supplement or something else.
Which just
And
masks the problem.
yeah, and then if they slipped or something, or they went to a party and had a little piece of dessert, then they had horrible migraines.
Yes, yes, that's right.
So
Yeah.
amazing. So tell us more how to start this journey then with kicking the habit of sugar. I mean, are there some tips that you can give to our listeners, and then explain about your course, how that works and what you can do?
Sure, sure. So, we kind of already started this conversation by saying you really do need to give yourself some days, a few days to let yourself go through those cravings. It's like quitting coffee. If you've ever quit coffee, you have those horrible headaches. And it's better if you don't take anything, you drink lots of water, maybe sleep a bit more, and all of a sudden they go away. Same with cravings. So if you give yourself a few days to get through those cravings, then you will start to taste differently. But the way to do that, Wendie, is to start to eat nutrient dense food.
Mm-hmm.
And that's typically what's missing in all the diets right now is nutrient dense food, and by that I mean fiber, healthy fats, and quality carbohydrates. We're not eating that way, and actually we should be getting up to, I don't know, it depends on where you read, over 35 grams of fiber a day. And they did a study on New Yorkers, and I think it said that they were getting about 5 grams a day, and of course they're very constipated because of it. So we see this a lot, and I see this a lot in my work. But when we can give the body fiber, we in those ways, vegetables, whole grains, and good quality carbs, we will start to, first of all, it feeds us, it keeps us full, so we really don't have those cravings. So that's a good thing for people to consider, is that if they want to try to eat less sugar, is to start to eat more quality carbohydrates, foods with a good amount of fiber in them, to keep them full. Most people eat like a box cereal, or a donut and a coffee for breakfast. That's not going to keep you full. You're going to crash. It's going to bring your blood sugar up, and then you're going to crash. So if you have a nutrient dense breakfast, like flax seeds, pumpkin seeds, maybe some oatmeal, some people add a bit of fruit to that. You can make it into a smoothie, whatever. You're going to be full longer, and you won't have those cravings. So after a couple of days or 3 days of doing that, you will find it a lot easier to not go back, gravitate towards those foods that you had. And of course, I'm a big believer in the beginning to get rid of those foods in your house, you
Yeah.
know, because
Yeah.
if they're there calling your name, it's harder. It's really a lot harder if they're there. But if you have to go to the store to get them, you probably will eat whatever's in your house,
Mm-hmm.
because
Very true.
we're not hungry, we're just craving. There's a big difference.
Yeah, and a lot of things with that as well. A lot of times I'm finding, well, when I'm working with my own clients where they're um, cravings and things like that, there's a different way to actually identify cravings. Like, I'll talk about that in a second if you want. But a lot of things is to try and increase your fluid intake, so try and stay hydrated, because that gets that system moving
Yeah.
as well a lot better. And a lot of times craving salty or sweet snacks is actually more of a sign of dehydration as well. Have you
Mhm.
found that as well in your studies?
People don't, a lot of people that I work with, they drink very little water, they eat very little fiber. Their liquids are mostly pop or
Wow.
juice,
Yep.
which is no, really not any healthier. or coffee or tea. Yeah.
Yeah.
And alcohol. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. All of the badness. I mean, there's a whole ton of stuff that goes hand in hand.
Yeah. So I
Um,
always say, if you're going to, you asked me about how my program works, and it's not like, here's this, do it. My program's very personalized. So let's say you come to me and you currently drink 14 cups of coffee a day, let's say. And I'll say, Wendie, do you think that what could you commit to changing? Do you think you could try to drink 10 cups a day rather than 14? Maybe you could do that. Could you commit to drinking a glass of water every time you have a cup of coffee? Yeah, I could. So that's how it starts. Now, some people can say, I'm ready to quit coffee. I'll go through the headaches. I'm done. So it really does depend on what the client is ready for. And that's how I work in my program. It's very customized for the individual.
very good. Very good. No, you definitely have to meet your clients on their level or their path of their journey, because it's like it's okay where we are, where we've maybe been halfway down through this road, but if you're trying to get people to come along with you on yours, you have to go back down the road a wee bit and go, okay, I know where you are, I remember this bit,
Yeah.
and okay, let's do this.
Yeah. I'm
Or
where
let's
you
start
are.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, even in saying that, I mean, I've had a few changes this year with, well, between almost, or hopefully it's been over 5 months now since I've needed any of my Lyme protocol. So that's changed a huge
Mhm.
amount. Other
Mhm.
stuff has been going on. Other age thresholds have been crossed. And also as well, a lot of people probably wouldn't even know this, that even know me and have known me personally for a long time, but wouldn't know me from the show, that I was a cigarette smoker until 4 months ago. So 15th of April this year, I gave up. So whenever you're listening to this, it's actually going to be even longer than that. But that was a bit of a challenge. And yeah, the first thing I went to replace that was the chocolate M&Ms.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm such a hypocrite. And yeah, I'll put my hand up, but we're all on a journey. We're all at different places.
That's
And
right.
certainly, I mean, I can help people get to a certain stage. You can help people to a certain stage and then progress through that, as we've both battled our own little
Mhm.
addictions or journeys or whatever it is, right? So everybody has something to bring to the table. But yeah, I'm completely picking up on what you're putting down here about the whole sugar thing. And if it's not in the house, you won't eat it.
Yes.
So once that final bag was done, I am committed to not having that at all.
Mhm.
But what I'm worried about, and I want to ask you this, because what I can't get away from the sweetness to a point. I mean, I cut the sugar out of tea. I cut the refined sugar out years ago. So if anything, we would use raw cane sugar, which is less processed, but it's still sugar. I get it. And don't be mad at me. Um,
I'm glad you identified it though.
oh yeah, it's still sugar. Just you know, put it in a different fancier box or whatever. It's still the same beast. Honey as well, which it does have some beneficial bits to it too, but it's still a sugar. It's not. Is it refined? Does honey come in the refined sugar?
The pasteurized honey is really doesn't have any benefits to it.
Okay,
So
no, this is raw.
we're able to, yeah, luckily we can buy raw honey. Most places do have that, which is great. But the thing about honey and maple syrup, agave is a poison. It's just a marketing gimmick.
Glad you mentioned that one. Yes.
But honey and maple syrup, as natural as they are, the problem with those, they still encourage cravings because they are sugar and they still go to the pleasure centers of the brain, release those happy chemicals. So people who say, "Oh, I don't have any sugar anymore. I'm just using honey and maple syrup in all my cooking, all my recipes, wherever they use it," they're addicted to sugar. They went from yes, it's more natural, maybe fewer chemicals, but it's keeping them addicted because they
Mm.
It's still going to the pleasure centers of the brain. The same with artificial sugar, only worse, because artificial sugar still feeds the pleasure centers of the brain, but there's chemicals in it. So the body doesn't know how to deal with the chemicals, and that's causing, artificial sweeteners are culprits in cancer, in Alzheimer's, in Parkinson's. There's all kinds of problems with artificial sweeteners. So your question was how to let the sugar go, I think. Was it?
I don't even remember.
Oh,
I know.
okay.
We always end up going off on tangents in our chats.
Yeah.
So that's absolutely fine. There was one thing I did want to know though, because to try to cut down the sugars in a sense, but still give myself a little sweet treat, if you like, would be doing a fruit smoothie. So is that all right?
Well, again, it depends on you. And what I would say is, because sugar is, some fruits have a lot of sugar. So yes, it's a healthy option. If someone is going to go from having no sugar, whether it's natural or not, to only fruit sugar in the beginning, I would say, if you're having 6 fruit a day, I would say I would caution to have that much. But if that's going to help you for the first few weeks, that's okay. Gradually, I would ask you to reduce that amount, because that's still keeping you craving, because you start to really want that smoothie. You need that smoothie. You can get cranky if you don't get it. So I would say to keep it with more lower fruits with lower sugar in them, and also maybe three fruit a day, and see how that's going with you. But in the meantime, when you have those cravings for something sweet, or if you're looking to eat and you're not really hungry, because that's what our snacking tends to be, it's not usually hunger. Some things that I suggest is a bigger meal and fewer snacks. But when you want to snack, have a piece of fruit, not fruit juice. Have some healthy nuts, have some raw nuts and seeds. Those, a piece of fruit and some raw nuts and seeds, or a healthy piece of bread, which isn't gluten, and some peanut butter, natural peanut butter or almond butter. You will be amazed to see how, a client of mine said, that's my treat right now. It's my Ezekiel bread with my peanut butter, and it's so delicious. I just love it. And she was a hardcore sugar addict. So, going to the swirly twirly ice cream place all the time. And now she's happy and very satisfied with her new choice. But it does take a bit of time. But the more nutrient dense you eat, the easier it will be to gradually get away from wanting that sugar all the time. And eventually you might be able to have the odd little thing. But as soon as the odd little thing becomes weekly or more than that, then that's usually a sign that you might want to nip it in the bud. Yeah. I wanted to mention, we touched on something earlier about sugar, and the companies that sell these foods have paid billions of dollars to marketing companies to sell you this as good, healthy food. They'll show sugar canes growing, and buy this sugar because it's so natural. And you know how many sugar canes you'd have to eat to get the same amount as a bag of sugar? It's insane. Nobody could eat that many sugar canes, So, but the marketing that is around these toxic foods is one of the reasons we're so addicted, because it makes the food look so good. I remember seeing like a banner like this in the mall. It was for a burger joint. And I haven't eaten beef since I was 19. and it was this gorgeous burger, and there was a little mayo peeking out, and there was layers of tomato and lettuce and maybe bacon. I don't remember what it was. And I said to my husband, I said, this makes me even want to eat it. And I,
Wow.
like it's so deliciously good looking that we say. So our cravings really do run our lives when it comes to our food choices. But the more nutrient dense you eat, the better you'll feel. And then you can say, that burger would do nothing for me but make me feel ill. And we don't really understand the damage sugar does. All of the, you mentioned the arthritis, the back pain, the knee pain, the headaches, the hormonal imbalances, PMS, directly related to diet and sugar, and acne and eczema and COPD, all of those things. Sugar is at the root of that. Sugar, or the foods that sugar is made with, like gluten. So, a donut, those types of foods. So really need to have a look at what, where that's coming from, where the food, what is in those foods that we're saying are the normal everyday kind of foods, and that the whole food, the real food way of eating is extreme. And like I said earlier, it's actually the opposite. Yeah.
It's very interesting you bring that up and mention a disease, COPD. And as you're saying that, I'm thinking, well, I'm always about all the animals and everything else. It's like we certainly wouldn't even dream of feeding our animals sugar.
Yeah.
And, I cringe every time, people go through their certain drive-throughs and they're given a little Timbit at the drive-through for the dog. And it's like, you just gave that dog poison. Like, how inconsiderate and rude and ignorant are you?
Yeah.
And, people don't think it's just one of those, oh, it's a little treat. It's fine. It's just for the doggy. But no, doggies don't eat sugar. And at the same time, I have a big horse out back there who, when he came to me 3 years ago, he had full-blown heaves, which is COPD for horses. And I'm going, well, if sugar's the root of that, how did he get it? But then you look at all the commercial feeds. And the, not so much the grains, but the likes of the senior feeds, or the beet pulps, or the sweet feeds. And, it's all the same route. Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Exactly.
And we tend to, a lot of us tend to feed our animals better than we feed ourselves. So, there are those that are giving their dog ice cream every evening when they have theirs. I just cringe when I see that. But it's none of it's good, Wendie.
No, I know. And it all comes down to a lot of being more open, talking about it. Yeah, sometimes we are, playing the point the finger, but people have to get it. And unless people like us are openly talking about it, that might offend someone, and that's fine. It's your offense to take. We're not giving it. But a lot of people as well are like, oh, we didn't look at it that way before. I never thought of that. So the more we can openly talk about things like this and bring stuff like this into the open, yes, we're completely and utterly brainwashed in the sense that, oh, look at this, it looks beautiful, you have to have it. Let's put sparkles and unicorns and mayos and glaze the top of it in perfect lighting, whether that's a hamburger or whether that's the dog's food with the the fancy advertisement with the dog running through the forest all fit and healthy, and oh, look, you've just given it a bag of sawdust, but look, it looked good on the TV.
That's right.
So it's opening the door to just let people maybe stop for a second and think a little bit further before they do grab that next bag of chocolate M&Ms or whatever their little dirty little secret is.
my because of what I went through, and knowing how I was living miserably, I was so miserable And I thought I was just, it was all part of life. I was blaming my weight, and I was uncomfortable, and I was depressed, and I was just not healthy. And when I got to what I call the other side, I realized that that's why I do what I do, because I know what the body's capable of. I know because I've done it to myself. I know others who have done it, and we have come through those challenges because of the way we changed, or because of our lifestyle. And so that's why I do what I do, because I want everyone to feel amazing, and it can be done. And we kind of have been, not kind of, we have been told that there's nothing that can be done about the common problems we have. You have high blood pressure, take a pill. You have high cholesterol, take a pill. You have breathing issues, here's a puffer. And so instead of saying right away, you have high blood pressure, change your diet, here's how, then you won't probably get high cholesterol. Then you'll be able to avert heart disease. And people just choose to have that Band-Aid solution, and then end up with problems that compound, and all of a sudden there's something very serious, and those people are gone at an early age, or statistics show that the average Canadian will spend the last 10 years of their life in sickness. And, I'm aiming to avert that. I don't want that. I want to be able to, die one day in bed, and hopefully it'll be several years from now. And
I wish a lot more than several, Janice, but there you go.
and speaking of that, I will plug my book a little bit. I forgot to mention this.
Oh, yes.
And talking about my story, this is my story is in here. You can get this on my website, and there's 23 holistic nutritionists and nutritional consultants who have their stories in here, and they're all similar in the way that they were faced with debilitating illness, didn't have any answers from any allopathic answers, and chose to change the way they lived. And we chose to change the outcome of our future. And so that's why I'm so passionate about doing what I do, because I know that if you can let go of those addictions that you have, you're going to feel better than you ever imagined possible. I know that. I've been there, and so that's what I want to do. That's what I'm helping my clients do, is to just finally feel like they should, finally feel what is normal. Being sick is not normal. The body's not supposed to be that way.
No, it's not. It's not. And I mean, even if you look at it as well, I mean, some of the largest pet food manufacturers are actually owned by candy companies.
Wow.
So, I mean, you've got Mars and Nestle, two of the biggest people in the industry. And, well, there you go. You can buy your dog food or your cat food. And it's the same people who are then actually owning these corporate vet clinics. So it's like, yeah, how are you keeping the money going there? And it always sounds like, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist, but no, the proof is in the pudding, no pun intended, but just follow the money. It's there. You see their stamps on the back of these canned foods or kibbles. You see it on the right at the grocery aisle. If you're doing, your own grocery shopping, it's the same companies making this sugar infused garbage.
Yeah.
And it's the same people who are actually owning the vast majority of veterinary clinics out there now, who are now setting quotas for the vets to sell enough protocols, drugs, whatever, to basically keep feeding this pill for an ill thing with never fixing how it's starting, because they're already starting it.
That's right.
And it's completely, it's criminal. It's pure evil.
Yes.
But until we actually are openly aware of it and it's not being either censored or blocked or poo-pooed on, it's only then when those wheels start turning and starts clicking with people, or they meet someone like yourself or someone else who just stopped eating sugar for a week, or someone who quit smoking or whatever it is, and they start to then listen to their story and go, oh hell, maybe I could do that.
Yeah.
But we were talking just off screen before we came on there, Janice, as well, and that's the biggest thing. Everybody has to be at that point in their lives where they're ready to make a change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How are you finding that? And then what do you do? Say if I come along to you and go, Janice, what's this sugar course you've got? Can I do it?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to hold my hand the whole way through it? Or
Mm-hmm.
how does that work? How would that work for someone? Because they're maybe very, very close to that. And even the same if they come to me for help on that other side of things, whether it's their pets or not. But we go the same way. We want to reduce the inflammation, help them to understand how to eat better and everything else. But definitely when you're addressing the addiction head on, what if someone's not ready? Or how do you know someone's right for the course? Or how would you advise someone that would be right for the course, if that makes any sense?
Well, generally, that's a great question. Makes me think a little bit as you're asking.
Sorry.
Oh no, that's okay because generally, I when someone reaches out to me, they usually know they have an issue. They have a problem that they want to address. Maybe they've never said it out loud. They've thought about it and they've seen perhaps, my posts on Facebook. They've talked to someone who's had success in my program, wherever that comes from, attended a webinar. And so what I usually will ask the client is, why are you here? What brings you to connecting with me and booking an introductory call with me? And they usually will say what it is that they have going on, and then I'll ask them, what have you done so far? And usually they'll say, I've dieted, and I've tried to do this and that, and then I'll probably ask them what makes this time different. And that's usually when they'll say that they are ready to make some changes. And so my next question is going to be, how are you going to do it? Because it's all on them. What do you think you will need to do other than have my support? What do you think you will have to change in order to see results? Because I can give you my program. I can say, this is what you need to do. I include a 30-day sugar-free meal plan in my program. Say, here you go. But what will they need to do for success? And so that generally gets a person thinking about what they're currently doing and how what they're ready to commit to. And I think one of the differences with my program is it's not a cookie cutter program. So I meet my clients where they are. So I can say to the person who eats out, takeaway, all box packaged, whatever, I can say to that person, this is where we're going to start with you. The person who's already been doing a lot, who needs more guidance because they've learned a few things, but they know that they need to do a little bit more to see results, we're going to start in a completely different place because they've already work through eating less gluten perhaps, or eating less sugar, or they've already tried adding flax seeds to their diet, where a person who's eating fast food every day, they have no fiber in their diet. So it's going to be different. And that's where I think the benefit is to be able to work with the person and meet them where they are, and each week start peeling the layers off the onion. Wherever they are starting, that's where we look at it and we work from there. Some people fast track through and they have amazing results. And well, most people do because they're geared and ready. If a
Mhm.
person isn't quite ready, I can perhaps suggest that they start by making small changes, and I would give a couple of examples, and maybe that's going to be enough to get them to start, because they're all of a sudden seeing that it's not all or nothing. I can start slow. I can still have a cookie. I can still go to my, son's graduation and there's going to be a cake there, or go to the cottage and still eat whatever. Within the confines of what they decide that they can do, they will still feel that they can live their life. And as they make those changes and see the results, Wendie, it's always so much easier to push through. It's just the first little bit that's hard for people because they're so addicted. But this is why it really can't be a one size fits all approach. And there's so many of those diet plans out there that are one size fits all. You're counting your points, or you've got this pre-made food that you can have, 2 portions of, and then you've got this other bag of food that you're opening up and you can have 4 portions of that, and then that's it for the day, or whatever it might be. If you're counting points, it might be a piece of chocolate cake and a milkshake, and that's it for the day. You can't get healthy that way. You can't
No.
achieve your goals that way. You can only do damage to your body that way, really. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, very, very true
Mhm.
indeed. No, that's great. And I love that, Janice, because you're the same way as the way I approach my clients as well. Because a lot of times mine are four-legged and we
Yes.
have no idea where they are in the journey. But whenever their guardians or pet parents or whatever they want to call themselves come along and go, okay, what can you do for me now? It's the same thing as yourself. Well, where are you? What are you doing? What have you got to so far? And why do you think I can make it different? And
Mhm.
I think, anybody that's listening out there and going, oh, well, I'd love to do that. Well, I know that myself and Janice are here for exactly the people who are listening to this wondering, oh, I'm ready to take that next step. Or I know diets don't work. Nothing has worked for me. That the stuff has come back on again. I've tried this, and this, and thrown bad money after good and never found the results. Well, if you know now from all the mistakes you've made, if you like, in the past, where you are now and where you want to keep going to, then maybe myself or Janice could be your answer and get you to help you carry along your journey for what fits you and what works with you. And with Janice coaching you on that, and even the likes of me coaching you on how to muscle test your foods to see what works, to see what your body can deal with. And which wherever you are in your journey, whatever way you want to approach it, you've got two people right here who are ready, willing, and able to help you in any which way we possibly can. So
Mhm.
with that, without further ado, Janice, I want you to just basically blast all of your information out now and tell everyone where they can find you to get some help on the next part of their journey.
Oh, thank you so much. So my website is janicinspiringchange.com, and you can contact me there. My email, janice@janicinspiringchange.com. I have a separate website that features my 12-week program. It's called Sugar Freedom Now. And the link for that is saynotosugarnow.com, and you can book a call with me there and find out a bit more about my program, and if you're ready for that. And I am on LinkedIn, Janice Amirault, and on Facebook as Janice Amirault. My last name is Amirault. It's a French Acadian name. Yeah.
Very good.
So,
Lovely.
yeah.
Well, Janice, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you very much for joining me today. And I will make sure that all of those links to all of your emails and websites and Facebook and everything else so that people can find you. We'll put them down below and in the description. And anyone looking to get a hold of Janice, I highly encourage it. She's a lovely lady, as you can see and hear. And we're here to do. And as always, I am here for you as well to help with all sorts of different bits and pieces, whether it's your pets or yourself. Finnessiamhealth.com. Again, you can go on there as well, book an appointment, or go and see what we're all about too. If this has been your first time joining us on Quantumly Yours, thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you're one of our regulars, then thanks for coming back again. We're obviously doing something for you and we'd love to hear from you. So, even other questions and things like that, please feel free, get in touch through the website at finnessiamhealth.com, put a comment in any of the links below or anything else like that. And certainly, we're here to help you on your journey because we're still on ours too. And we never stop learning. And it's even through a lot of our clients that we meet along the way that we end up learning more things too. So it's always an exciting thing. And I know I can speak for myself and Janice when we say we both love what we do. So thank you again for joining us, Janice. And stay well, stay sugar free. And to all the rest of our listeners out there, thanks again for joining us and stay possum.
All information, products, and topics discussed in the show are simply the host and guest's personal opinions and are for informational purposes only. None claim to offer a diagnosis, treatment, or cure. All listeners and viewers are encouraged to do their own research and consult with their own healthcare providers before changing or adapting any new protocols. Finnessiam Holistic Health, nor any of its entities, assume any responsibility or liability for any consequence relating directly or indirectly from the information contained within the podcast.